there. Welcome. This is Life After Trauma with Dr. Jan, helping you to take a stand and put an end to all the drama. Just think of me as your second mama. Hi, I am Dr. Jan, and my channel is all about the trauma and drama of domestic abuse. Domestic abuse is a dark and silent culture, and that is why people do not talk about domestic abuse. And yet, domestic abuse is pervasive, it is everywhere. I know because I lived 42 years as a victim of domestic abuse. And in all of that time, I never told anyone what I was going through in my personal life. Not even my own family. Now, there are many reasons why I didn't tell others or get into it, but those days of silence about domestic abuse is over. It is time we talk and discuss this very dark and pervasive culture. Life after trauma with Dr. Jan is my life story. I got married at the age of 19 in 1959 while I was still in college. And that's when my journey in domestic abuse started. I struggled. I struggled with all kinds of abuses and through two marriages. I With husband number one, we were married almost 20 years. And with husband number two, we were married 22 years. But God has been so good to me. Even though my story is filled with trauma and drama, my story has an extremely happy ending. And that is very rare, and I feel very, very blessed. Today, I am 85 years young. I was born in 1939, and I am a successful survivor and overcomer of domestic abuse, not just once, but twice. And I'm still in my right mind, and I don't look like where I have been. And yet, believe me, I have been to hell and back. I wrote a book about my life called Testimony of a Kept Woman, From Misery to Ministry instead of the state penitentiary. And in my book, I talk about what I suffered and endured in domestic abuse. I talk about also how I finally was able to heal and recover from the trauma and drama of domestic abuse. And I was transformed by the renewing of my mind, and I was able to move from victim to victory. By the way, you can purchase my book on my website that is listed below this channel. I don't want any person, man or woman, male or female, to ever suffer like I did for so many years. So I have decided to share my story and let you see all of the mistakes that I made so that you don't have to make them. Life After Trauma with Dr. Jan is my channel that will share what I have learned about domestic abuse so that I can help you and all of those who are suffering in this dark and silent culture. You know, if I can help just one person move from victim to victory and heal and recover from the trauma and drama of domestic abuse, then I feel that my living will not have been in vain because we know that there is life after trauma with Dr. Jan. This is episode 11, and today we're going to ask and answer this question. What is domestic abuse? And could you possibly be a victim and not even know it? Well, we're going to discuss 4 ways to find out. So let's begin. What is domestic abuse? Well, domestic abuse is a pattern of behaviors where one partner uses that behavior to try to dominate and control the other partner. You see, domestic abuse is all about power and control. That's it in a nutshell. Now, there are many types of domestic abuses, but today we are only going to touch briefly on just 4 types: physical violence, emotional abuse, verbal abuse, and that psychological mind game called gaslighting. We're going to see each one of these abuses, see what they look like, and how you can know if you are being abused and you don't even know it. Let's start with the one abuse that most people know best: physical violence. Now, physical violence is easy to detect and identify because there's physical contact that hurts. When you are struck in physical violence, you are in pain. So, what can this physical violence be? Well, it can be hitting, slapping, punching, kicking, biting, pushing, pulling of hair, throwing of objects, etc. The the contact of physical or violence is meant to hurt the other individual, to terrorize them, to cause pain, to intimidate, and basically cause fear in the victim. So much so that that victim will submit to the abuser and do what the abuser wants. Now, you never have to guess whether or not you are in a physically violent relationship, because everyone knows that it's physical. You are touching and hurting, it's violent, and it's what most people think that all domestic abuses are. It's the most popular definition, and some people think that if you are not being physically attacked or hurt, then you're not in domestic violence. That is not true. And we're going to eradicate that false premise today. Um, some people, as I said, think that only physical violence is domestic abuse, and the others are not. But we will see this is not true. So the first one that we talked about is physical violence, and that one is so prevalent that we even point out the month of October, and we set aside that month to talk about physical violence in relationships, as if that's the only kind of abuse that marriages and the other relationships have. But physical violence is just one type of abuse. The second abuse that we want to talk about, and the one that I experienced, is emotional abuse. Now, emotional abuse is more difficult to recognize than physical abuse, physical violence. And why do I say that? I say that because emotional abuse can be more subtle and indirect. The abuser can actually look as though they are helping and being very good to the victim, when in actuality they are really hurting you or the victim. Now, emotional abuse can sometimes be confused with just normal conflict in a relationship, because it doesn't stand out like a black eye or a broken arm from physical violence. But emotional abuse is more than just normal conflict. The abuser in emotional abuse uses behavior that tries to control you, manipulate you, threaten or belittle you, but it's not done in an open way. It's to me, I would describe it as more sneaky and tricky and underhanded. You, as a victim of emotional abuse, may not even recognize that you are being abused, but you are. It's not upfront like physical violence. It's emotional abuse is more devious, it's more cunning, it's more underhanded, and so you can find yourself feeling suppressed or even depressed. You don't hurt physically in any kind of way, but you are not on your A game, and you don't know what's wrong, but you do know that something is wrong. Um, you just don't feel right, and like in a physical violence situation where you can go and get an X-ray to see if your bones were broken or cracked, in emotional abuse, there is no X-ray available to show and detect a broken heart. And yet, the pain of your brokenness in emotional abuse is just as painful as a physical break. So tell me, as you're listening to me describe emotional abuse, are you wondering about your relationship? I ask you this because you're going to learn that in my second marriage, I was married to a pastor of a very prominent church. I was the first lady of the church. Everybody looked up to me. I felt that I was doing well, and never in my wildest dreams would I have imagined that I was being emotionally abused. And yet I was. So, my question to you is this: have you encountered some emotional abuse, and yet you didn't recognize what was happening to you? Would you please comment below and tell me about it? I would like to hear from you. And while you are commenting to me, take a look at my website. It's called www.jnbjannulbirdministries.org. And when you look at my website, you'll see a lot of different things that may be of interest to you. Right. Well, we have seen the physical violence, and we have touched on the emotional abuse, number 2. Number 3 is verbal abuse. Now, verbal abuse is, in my recollection, the easiest abuse to recognize. Why? Because the abuser uses words, not physical aggression, not subtle emotional tactics. They use words. And it's interesting that people do not equate words with abuse. Oh, but words can be the worst kind of abuse. People seem to think that they can talk to you in any kind of way and get away with it because, after all, they're just using words, and that's okay. But no, it is not all right to abuse someone with words. And just because you are using words and you're not physically violent, it is still abuse. And we all need to know that. Verbal abuse is very harmful. Almost all of us have heard that old saying, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. Have you ever heard of that? Of course you have. We all have. And that is absolutely not true. The Bible says in Proverbs chapter 18, verse 21, that death and life are in the power of the tongue. And that is so true. And although this little tongue is a small member in our big bodies, that small tongue can cause lots of damage. Why? Because words matter. Words can heal and words can kill. And it's all in how you use those words. We have seen physical violence, number one. We have seen emotional abuse, number two. And we have seen verbal abuse, number three. Last and final for today, we want to talk about abuse number four, that psychological mind game called gaslighting. Question: what is gaslighting? We hear so much about it today. Gaslighting is when one partner manipulates or devalues the other partner to the point that this other partner begins to question their own sanity or doubt their own sense of reality. Now, the gaslighter plays on the mind of the other person. And one of the worst things about gaslighting is that it is extremely hard to prove that someone is gaslighting you. It's almost impossible to know for sure, and yet, in how you feel, you know that you have been gaslighted. So, why do gaslighters gaslight their victim? The goal of the gaslighter is to erode that victim's confidence. They want to pull them down. Maybe that victim has a lot of confidence and is all that they would want to be. And so what they do, the gaslighter does, is try to pull the confidence down by confusing them, disorienting them. Increasingly, that victim will become more and more disoriented and become dependent on the abuser, the very one who is gaslighting them. And that way, the abuser can manipulate and control that partner even more. The abuser wins in this situation, which is horrible. Now, in all types of abuse, domestic abuse is bad. But to me, this is just me, Dr. Jan, personally, gaslighting is the absolute worst, even more so than physical abuse. I know because I was gaslighted by husband number two. And I tell you, that gaslighting almost did me in. But thank God I was saved from it, and in a very interesting way. And I will share that episode with you in one of our future episodes. I believe you will find it very interesting. So we are going to stop here. This is episode 11, and we have asked and answered the question, what is domestic abuse? And can you know for sure if you are being abused? We gave you 4 different ways to know. Now, there are so many other ways of abuse, but we started out with these 4 today. And as we go along, we will delve into some others. By the way, as you listen to me, are you a victim of domestic abuse and you didn't even know it? I hope not. But stay tuned. We are learning a lot. I want you to remember to subscribe to my channel. I want you to like and help grow this channel, Life After Trauma with Dr. Jan, because it is so important that we are aware of what's going on, sometimes right there in our own homes. Be sure to click on my website. It is www.jnbministries.org. There's so much in my website that you can learn, can order. Check out my ebook. It's on my website, Testimony of a Kept Woman from Misery to Ministry Instead of the State Penitentiary. It is my memoir. It is my life story. It's short, it's easy to read, and it talks about all of those 42 years that I was involved in domestic abuse. Also, be sure to check out my digital curriculum on my website. It's called 7 Power Keys, and it spells out in this digital curriculum the specific keys and strategies that God used to help me heal and recover. Well, this is Life After Trauma with Dr. Jan, and I thank you for subscribing and liking my channel. Tell a friend about this channel, and let's grow together. Until the next time, God bless you, and I hope to see